Hi everyone, Pat Haslam here. Sorry I can't be with you in person today. Wendy and Suzanne had asked me to do a quick video to walk you through the respiratory dashboard to get you started on it. So I've just done this quick video to give an overview of the dashboard structure is and a beginning of how to use it. The truth is the dashboard is actually becoming a huge thing and there's an awful lot of data on it. I think probably the reality is just using it and getting used to it is probably the best way to learn what it can do. So I'll give you a few pointers and go over the overall structure, and hopefully that's enough to get you going. Access is via a link which we can provide you with, but you'll need to use your logon details and ask the IT department to give you access. So if you email the service desk and ask for access, that shouldn't be a problem at all. So when you log on, first of all, this is the page that you'll be confronted with, which is the dashboard. There's a series of tabs along the top here, which do various things. We've got the main introductory page here. We've then got a tab called participating practices. This will probably disappear. It was something that we'd put on to see which practices had signed up to share data with the dashboard, and now that everyone apart from Coniston is, we don't really need this anymore. There's then a dashboard tab, which is more for the steering group really, which allows us to keep track of certain high level metrics. Again, if you want to read it, you by all means do, but that's more for us to keep an eye on things. There's then a series of tabs up to this point here with care planning, which are designed to broadly follow the MBRN service specifications. So it looks at some of the population health stuff which may be relevant to us. It then looks at some data around diagnosis of respiratory conditions. Again, broadly speaking, we'll look at these four conditions of asthma, COPD, ILD and bronchiectasis. And this looks at when the code is added for a first time in EMIS and then captures some data around that. We then look at kind of the monitoring of stable and deteriorating disease for our patients, some data around acute admissions for you to look at. Now, up until this point, and for a lot of this data, it's extracted from the community data warehouse, which is all the data from our GP instances of EMIS. There's a pulmonary rehab tab here, which takes data from the community EMIS instance and is designed so that we can look at how we're performing with pulmonary rehabilitation, how many patients are going through, completion rates, etc. We then have a final tab here on care planning, which looks at end of life and supportive care issues. The remaining tabs may or may not be useful to you. We've got a tab here on who's using the dashboard, whether you're interested in that. There's a testing tab here. It usually has a map of England, and it allows us to look at where people live and map COPD to things like deprivation, pollution, in terms of admissions, exacerbations, prevalence, things like that. I think this is probably going to be more of a research tool, and it doesn't work great at the moment. I'll come back to this Nhs Numbers tab, which I don't want to open at the moment because it shows everyone's Nhs numbers. The peer comparison tab is something that I think will be useful for the ICCs. It allows us to look at a number of codes, metrics, and then can have a look at how these things compare across the ICCs. So, for example, pulmonary rehab referral rates, and it lists, the percentages of certain conditions per ICC. It isn't designed to be a stick to beat people with, but rather allows us to point out good practice and perhaps where there are areas where we need to support and do some education for different ICCs. The general approach with these dashboards is it provides you with a page of whatever data you're particularly concerned with. So for example here, COPD diagnoses over time, and it allows us to do various filters. So we might look at COPD, or we might look at asthma, or we might look at ILD, and the data will change. We then have a range of filters along the right here, which allows us to drill down a bit deeper as much as you want. So you might, for example, pick people with ILD who are age 40 to 49. You then may say, well, I want the people with COPD who are age 40 to 49 and who are in Barrow Town, for example. So we can then filter all this data and start pulling things out. This is where the Nhs Numbers tab comes in. So you can apply a certain number of filters to get a cohort of patients that you're interested in. It will then output the Nhs numbers, and you might, for example, be something that you wish to target a certain intervention in a certain cohort of patients, but that's what that tab allows you to do. And this same filtering process applies on all of the tabs. So you can look at disease monitoring, and you might say, well, let's look at how breathless patients are, perhaps from age 40 to 49, or indeed we could just go a few more age ranges, select several at once, and we might say, well, let's have a look at Barrow Town, people who are current smokers, and you can have a look like that. So whatever particular thing you're looking at, there's a range of filters there for you to do, and they apply on all of these tabs. Another option is you can just simply click on something. So that's, I've clicked here on people with breathless grade of 3 with all those filters, and again this data comes out. So that's a broad overview of how you get around the dashboard. It is huge, there is lots going on, and I think the other thing that's really important to note is it is a work in progress. What particular metrics and data is available on these pages can be changed, and where it's evolving over time. The other hugely important point to make is, at the moment, the data quality isn't great. So to a certain extent, it's not terribly useful, the dashboard, although certainly it's there for you to kind of have a go at and practice using. If I get rid of all these filters, you can see that the dashboard thinks there's 289,000 patients in Morecambe Bay, when we know that the true result is about 340, 345. So there is a data quality issue which IT are tackling. It revolves around a problem of knowing whether a patient is alive or dead, or whether they're registered or not registered with a practice. So once we can get that sorted, obviously I think it will be a hugely useful tool for us, not only to measure certain metrics about how the network is performing, but allows you in the ICCs to really look at certain areas of practice around respiratory disease management and kind of target certain interventions where they'll be valuable. So any comments, any suggestions, please do let me know. We'll let you know when we feel that the data quality issue has been sorted. And if you've any suggestions about useful little videos or educational sessions around it, please do let me know, and we can certainly do that. Thanks.